Friends, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a significant and tense moment in international relations, a moment that has captured headlines worldwide. We're talking about a recent, sharp exchange involving Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This isn't just about two leaders. It's a reflection of a much larger, complex, geopolitical situation that affects us all. We'll break down what was said, the context behind the words, and what it could mean for the future. So, grab a seat, and let's get into it. The statement that has everyone talking was delivered by President Putin during a recent press conference. It was a direct and forceful message aimed squarely at his Ukrainian counterpart. Now, to understand the weight of these words, we need to look at the specific phrasing used. Putin's address was characterized by a stern and uncompromising tone, a clear departure from the more measured language often seen in high-level diplomacy. He articulated a series of grievances and accusations, framing them as non-negotiable points from the Russian perspective. This wasn't a casual remark. It was a deliberate and calculated communication, intended to send a powerful signal, not just to Kyiv, but to the entire international community. The core of Putin's message revolved around the historical and cultural ties between Russia and Ukraine, a theme he has returned to many times. He reiterated his long-held view that Russians and Ukrainians are one people, separated by political forces he describes as hostile to Russian interests. This narrative is crucial to understanding his government's policies. In his address, he portrayed the current Ukrainian leadership as being controlled by external powers and acting against the true interests of the Ukrainian people. He specifically criticized President Zelensky, suggesting his actions have deepened divisions rather than fostering unity. This framing is a key element of the Kremlin's public diplomacy, aiming to legitimize its own actions while delegitimizing the Ukrainian government in the eyes of both domestic and international audiences. Let's delve deeper into the context. This sharp address didn't happen in a vacuum. It comes after a prolonged period of high tension and ongoing conflict. The situation has been simmering for years, marked by diplomatic stalemates and sporadic escalations. Various negotiation formats, like the Normandy format and the Minsk agreements, have been attempted with limited success. Each side accuses the other of failing to uphold their commitments. From the Russian perspective, the eastward expansion of NATO is seen as a direct threat to its security interests, a red line that has been crossed. They also point to the treatment of Russian-speaking populations in Ukraine as a major point of contention. It is within this intricate web of historical grievances and modern security concerns that Putin's latest remarks were made. On the other side, Ukraine and its Western allies have a completely different interpretation of events. They view Russia's actions as a violation of international law and Ukrainian sovereignty. For them, the desire to align with Western institutions like the European Union and NATO is a sovereign right of the Ukrainian people, a choice about their own future. President Zelensky's administration has consistently emphasized Ukraine's independence and its distinct national identity. From Kyiv's standpoint, Putin's narrative of one people is a denial of their country's history and statehood, a justification for interference in their internal affairs. Zelensky has repeatedly called for international support and has positioned himself as a leader defending democratic values against aggression. His response to Putin's latest comments was swift, reaffirming Ukraine's sovereignty and its commitment to its chosen geopolitical path. He stressed that the Ukrainian people, and only the Ukrainian people, will decide their own destiny. The international reaction to this exchange has been, as you can imagine, divided. Western leaders, including those in the United States and the European Union, largely condemned Putin's rhetoric. They reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Statements from Washington and Brussels called the remarks inflammatory and counterproductive to de-escalation efforts. They emphasized the importance of diplomacy and dialogue, but also warned of severe consequences for any further aggression. Sanctions and other economic measures have been the primary tools used by the West to pressure Moscow. And this latest incident has only intensified discussions about potential further actions. The message from the West is clear. They stand with Ukraine. Conversely, Some countries have taken a more neutral or supportive stance towards Russia's position. Nations with close political and economic ties to Moscow have either remained silent or echoed some of the Kremlin's talking points about legitimate security concerns. This highlights the deep divisions in the global geopolitical landscape. Organizations like the United Nations have called for restraint and a return to the negotiating table. But their ability to influence the situation is limited without consensus among the major powers on the Security Council. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the fragmented state of global politics, where different power blocks operate with vastly different worldviews and strategic objectives. So, what does this sharp address from Putin actually mean for the future? On one hand, it can be seen as a form of psychological pressure, an attempt to intimidate and force concessions without resorting to further military action. It's a high-stakes diplomatic maneuver designed to test the resolve of Ukraine and its allies. By using such strong language, Putin is signaling that his government is not backing down and that the red lines he has drawn are to be taken seriously. This is a classic tactic in international relations, using rhetoric to shape the battlefield of perception and influence the calculations of your adversary. On the other hand, such heated rhetoric carries significant risks. It can escalate tensions, making a diplomatic solution even harder to find. It hardens positions on both sides, making compromise appear as a sign of weakness. When leaders engage in such sharp public exchanges, it can corner them, making it difficult to de-escalate without losing face. There is a real danger that this war of words could spill over into more concrete actions, leading to a miscalculation or an unintended escalation. The line between forceful diplomacy and a prelude to conflict can be perilously thin, and many analysts are watching the situation with growing concern. The increased military posturing along the border only adds to this anxiety, creating a highly volatile environment where a single spark could ignite a much larger fire. Looking ahead, the path to a peaceful resolution remains fraught with obstacles. For any meaningful dialogue to occur, there needs to be a fundamental shift in the approach from all sides. A de-escalation of rhetoric would be a crucial first step, creating an atmosphere more conducive to negotiation. Both sides would need to be willing to engage in genuine, good-faith discussions about security guarantees and a long-term settlement. This would require acknowledging the legitimate concerns of the other party, even if you don't agree with their position. For example, a discussion about Ukraine's neutrality, while respecting its sovereignty, could be a potential, though difficult, avenue for compromise. International mediators could play a vital role in facilitating such a dialogue, helping to build trust and find common ground. However, the success of any diplomatic effort will ultimately depend on the political will of the leaders involved. Are they willing to take the political risks necessary for peace, or are they locked into a cycle of confrontation? The stakes are incredibly high, not just for the people of Russia and Ukraine, but for global stability as a whole. The entire world has an interest in seeing a peaceful, diplomatic resolution to this crisis. In conclusion, President Putin's sharp address to President Zelensky is more than just a headline. It's a critical moment in a long and complex geopolitical saga. It encapsulates the deep-seated historical grievances, competing security interests, and clashing worldviews that define this conflict. While the language was harsh and the tensions are high, the door to diplomacy, however narrow, is not yet fully closed. The choices made in the coming weeks and months by leaders in Moscow, Kyiv, and Western capitals will have profound consequences for international peace and security. We can only hope that wisdom and restraint prevail. Thank you so much for joining us for this in-depth analysis. It's a complex issue, and we appreciate you taking the time to understand it with us. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the events shaping our world. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.